I would like, first of all, to thank both Val and Sophie for launching this amazing initiative of showcasing what we are doing in our Department of Entrepreneurship and Strategy about gender studies. And today, instead of presenting a paper, I would like to offer more an overview of women's involvement in family business. And in particular, I would like to provide a little bit and guide you through a journey through what has been the increasing attention from practitioners, first of all, to the topic, and later discuss with you the last, I would say, 10, 12 years of research on the topic. And finally, share with you what have been the interests and voices, let's say, inside our department in trying to contribute to this debate. So where do we position, in a sense, as a center for family business within this topic of women in family business? So let me first share with you this perspective from Elizabeth Beggar. There is a director at the Institute for Family Business based in London from a couple of years ago, where she was saying, through my work at the IFB, I see lots of incredible female leaders and plenty more future leaders amongst the next generation. And that is a trend we see in family business around the world. She was also highlighting that when we look at female entrepreneurship in the UK context, only 1 in 3 new businesses are set up by women, and only 5.6% of UK women run their own companies. Yet, when we look into the family businesses, and there she was using the recent UK family business sector, a national report that was run by the Research Foundation for a couple of years, she was observing, she was highlighting that 81.1% of all small and medium family firms had at least 1 woman in a leadership role, defined either as owner, partner, or director. That is higher than for non-family small and medium family businesses. And 22.6% of family-owned small and medium firms actually describe themselves as being women-led, with respect to a 14% for non-family SMEs. I think it's quite interesting to have these figures in mind while we observe that anyway around the world we have an increasing attention to family to women involved in family business through dedicated website like this one on women in family business that collects stories about women around the world, or consultancy companies who are developing dedicated reports like this one by KPMG on the power of women in family business, a generational shift in purpose and influence, or as well interesting reports like this one by Financial Times together with EY on women that fight bias in family business. And finally, educators. More and more often is it possible to find interesting programs dedicated, for example, like this one, to next generation women leaders. For example, this was in the Middle East and African country. Be inspired, make a difference. All these suggest there is an increasing attention towards women in family business in practice. Let me share also this 90 seconds interview that Professor Kim Edelstone from Northeastern University did to a consultant.
So today we're going to be focusing on women in family businesses. So my first question is, how can women working in their family businesses build their credibility?
I think that's a great question, and short answer, they have to acquire the confidence and authority so that they can sit at that table, not as a supporter, not as an informal information resource or negotiator. They have to be able to do that. How do they do it? Acquire the confidence in their communication skills and decide what role do they want to play and how do they wish to play it.
When a woman joins her family's business, what can she do to make sure she's not perceived simply as daughter, sister, wife, and is actually viewed as an employee and a manager?
I think that nepotism argument is always a very sensitive one. And by virtue of her education, she's going to be in a very good position anyway. But hopefully by having acquired that external experience, her resume is going to be very, very solid. So when she comes back at that certain point to work in the family business, hopefully she will have also acquired insights on what she wants to do. What does she want to achieve in that family business? Where does she want to sit in that configuration?
I think in these few words, we can really understand how important is somehow to define the role and the responsibilities of a woman once she joins the family business. And I think that given these, let's say, premises or insights from practice, I would like now to share with you a few insights from research. And I would like in particular to focus on three main literature reviews that have tried from different perspectives to somehow frame how the topic has been addressed in the field. And the first one in 2009 by Rocio Martinez Jimenez, who showed that basically there are 5 key themes that are relevant to understand the role of women in family business. On the one hand, she identifies some items that are labeled as obstacles to actually join the family business. And one is considered this women's invisibility, on which also Ellie actually has worked in the past. Then there is a topic about emotional leadership. Often women are somehow pointed as the CEOs, but is an alternative CEOs, because they often are pointed as the chief emotional officer. In a sense, the glue that keeps the family in business together. But probably that's not the only role they have, and that's where I liked in the video that I just showed you, where Kim was asking, okay, how could women not just be recognized as wives, daughters, sisters, but actually as employees, managers, shareholders, I would add. And the third obstacle that Martinez Jimenez was identifying is the issue of succession, with particular focus on the norms like primogeniture that is still in some cases a formal, in other cases informal rule that actually determines who will be the next CEO or the next anyway top management team in the business. And on the other hand, however, she also recognized in the previous literature, some positive aspect, like anyway, some opportunities for a professional career in the family firm on the one hand, and also the opportunity to run the family business. Later on, and in this paper, I contributed with some colleagues, among the other Alfredo De Massis, that works also with us in Ernst partially. And in this literature review, what we were observing in extant research is that, in a sense, women's involvement in family business has been discussed looking at the phenomenon from different angles, from different perspectives. And that's why in this overarching framework, we tried to identify that there might be a, I would say, more static perspective, so observing what is the role, what are the responsibilities of women in the business, so what we label the presence of women in the business, and trying to look at relationships, for example, what's their role. And here, for example, it emerges also this topic of being the chief emotional officer and so on. On the other hand, there are some phenomena that are more dynamic in nature, and either they discuss these progressive involvement of women into the business, looking at career dynamics. And also, interestingly, here there are studies that try, for example, to mingle together aspects related to motivations of the individuals, so of these women to join the business and to make a career in the family business, and these barriers of obstacles that they face. And on the other hand, what we framed as entry into the business, that might be in a more extensive way the topic of succession. So what does it mean to be a daughter and consider actually taking over the business from incumbents? And there are several studies that try to discuss the father-daughter relationships, the mother-daughter relationships, the opportunity actually to become the CEO or the next gen leader, despite of the different family structure. Are there any other brothers? Are there any other sister? Is she the only child, and so on? On the other hand, we have also this, and here probably I reconnect a little bit with also Sophie's point on these women entrepreneurs, where the focus here anyway mostly on the phenomenon of copreneurship on the one hand, so women that start their business with their partners, and women that start their business with other family members. So in a way framing it as family entrepreneurial teams, on which also Alan has worked in the past together with Ellie. And also in that case, it's particularly interesting, in my opinion, to observe the different insights from many parts of the world about this topic. More recently, a couple of years ago, Kubicek and Maciek also published a literature review focusing in this case on succession in particular, and looking at the gender-related factors that affect succession. On the one hand, it's interesting how they cluster, in a sense, these factors in three main topics. One related to the environment and context, so looking at primogeniture, gender stereotypes, but also in the industry affiliation. Is not unusual to consider among some of the barriers to women's taking over the family business. This is a male-dominated industry. So you don't expect to see a woman at head of a, I don't know, rubber making company or something like that. Then there are other types of factors related to either people, so different management style between male and female successor. From the incumbent point of view, are they really willing to leave, or even if after they retire, they're still there somehow? Success-related factors. To what extent are daughters actually willing to join, willing to lead? To what extent their previous working experiences and their education actually support this passing the baton from the incumbent to the daughters in this case? And then, of course, also the relationships, as I mentioned before, among siblings, with other family members, with non-family members, are all important gendered factors. And last but not least, gendered processes. How are successors selected? What is the role of mentors, values, knowledge in all this process? In closing, I would like just to share where we are moving as a group of people that work in the department and are looking into this topic of women's involvement in family business and gender in family business, and that have different experiences, different backgrounds. On the one hand, we are exploring topics related, for example, to gender norms and succession. I see also in the audience some people with whom I'm exploring some of these topics even outside Lancaster University. And then also with Ellie, Alan and Sarah, we are working on a paper looking at the role of women in fostering the continuity of the family business through different crises and difficulties, and so also reflecting on how women contribute to build this kind of resilience capability. And overall also, probably in the future, we are going to look at this role of women also on the well-being of family and non-family employees, and overall well-being of the family. Again, trying to understand how, in a sense, we can say gender norms are at work in this very special organizational context.